Hello and welcome to yet another IMR review, and next earphones that finish their burn-in process are IMR Knight. Sometimes I really don't understand English because there is a letter K at the beginning of this word. Why should we skip it? Anyway, let's go back to the Knight. It's affordable single dynamic driver model. Cost is £175, but as usual there could be some discounts. And also as usual it's already sold out, so if you will be interested in this model you need to check second-hand market, or you need to follow IMR because sometimes they have some bespoke sales or something like that. And it's IMR attempt to create a new model in the totally new design utilizing just 6mm ADLC dynamic driver. ADLC, it's amorphous diamond-like carbon or something like that, and a new compact shell. So I think it looks promising, and add here traditional tuning system, so you understand why this model was pretty interesting for me. So let's have a closer look. Model came in traditional case, but also IMR kindly added a small case for everyday storage. Of course you won't carry earphones in the big case, so for everyday carry there is a nice small case. But main case, I think it's the best thing available in the earphones market. Good nylon case with a convenient handle, zipper, and inside there is, as usual, some manual with information and a traditional set of accessories. So 4 pairs of silicone tips, 2 pairs of foams and pair of double flanges, 6.3mm adapter, set of tuning tips, 8 for low frequencies and 6 for the highs and trebles. So that part is traditional, and that's what we used to see. And you'll get 2 cables. There was an option to select one, either 2.5mm or Pentacon, so I selected Pentacon. Earphones themselves, second cable, regular 3.5mm short clip, 2 stripes of leather for cables organization, and also a pair of replaceable faceplates that you can use to turn this model into closed back. So as you can see, despite pretty affordable price, accessory set and presentation is done nicely. And here are earphones themselves. The smallest and the most compact shells in the IMR history. I will zoom in a little bit and adjust camera also tiny bit. So they are compact, small, but built with traditional IMR style. Only metal, no plastic, so you can see. They remind in shape their traditional models, and they actually can be worn cable down, if you'll get, of course, cable with ear hooks. But I prefer over the ear wearing anyway. So let me disconnect one of the 2 pairs. Here it is. Build quality is nice, everything is done nicely and smoothly. Good looking gunmetal black color and interesting ornament of faceplate, so you can unscrew 2 small hexagonal screws and replace this faceplate if you need closed back design. And traditional adjustable filter system, so you can unscrew the top part to change the treble and mids, and you can unscrew the whole filter. So, and lower part of this filter changes low frequencies. So when they are new, sometimes it's hard to unscrew them because grip is not great. I usually use tips in this case to get a better grip and unscrew these filters completely. So let me put tips back, and usually grip improves, and now it's possible to unscrew it completely. So here it is. it's possible to see some internals. Probably here is this dynamic driver, and I always like to look what's going on inside. And as usual, all that screws are done nicely. There are small rubber rings to improve the hold and improve the contact, and you can screw it back. So really convenient system of changing filters. And you can see that they are small, compact, and they have a pretty extended spouts, giving slightly above average sound isolation. Filter works as a lip for holding the tips, and also it works as a protective grill. So we'll assemble it back a bit later. Cable is made replaceable, used new angled connector with 2 pins. It improved comfort a little bit. There are ear hooks, but no memory wire inside. And the traditional IMR cable. I like it, so I think it does its job well. It's pretty soft, tangle proof, and pretty comfortable, but I'm in general fan of this cable. It's a bit longer than traditional, about 1.4 meters, so if you are tall and distance from your ears to your pocket with player is bigger than usual, you will like that. Anyway, let's summarize this part. Nice build quality, good design, and everything is done on a really good level. And of course about the sound, all things that is true for regular IMR earphones, true for this model. They have 96 tuning options, so two open back ports and 8 bass filters and 6 mid treble filters, so multiplying all that and we getting 96 tuning options, and that's not counting ways of changing the sound with cable and tip rolling. As usual, I'm using this red and black filter settings, like slightly below average amount of low frequencies and pretty bright treble. I like this tuning with vast majority of IMR models, and this one is not exception. They require a burn-in, but this time burn-in is a bit shorter than traditional for the IMR. Their sound settled after 60 hours or so. I burned them in for 120 hours, but after 60 hours there were no changes in sound. Yeah, I know that there are a lot of skeptics about the burn-in process, but IMR is that rare exception when this burn-in changes sound in a noticeable way. Actually, here I have one hypothesis with these earphones, because other models made by IMR usually changes the sound during their burn-in, and sometimes it became even worse during that process at the point of about 80 hours. So maybe it's that moment where dynamic driver is already settled and other drivers are not. So, but of course it's just my random guess. So they require about 60 hours of burn-in, and once you get them, do that, and after that do some experiments with filters. Don't try to follow others' advice, because trying different filters and finding the tuning that will suit your tastes is an important part of getting IMR earphones. But let's have a player on the table to show some examples, and let's talk about the sound. So it's a dynamic driver, pretty traditional in terms of tuning, and tuned to be a bit on the warmer side of things. So here earphones utilize dynamic drivers at maximum. They giving weighty sound with nice impact and a nice amount of air pumped. And as you can see, I changed this faceplate, so I decided to use them closed back. If you're going to change this faceplate, do it in a well-lit conditions, somewhere on the white background, and you'll need the screwdriver, because actually when you unscrew these tiny screws, they open, halves of the shells are opening, because the screws also holding the shells together, so be careful. And dynamic driver is mounted in the lower part and socket holds in the upper part, so just be careful not to tear this small internal wiring. But if you'll do that carefully, there won't be big issues. So, lows are accented, accents are not big, but of course you can vary it in a pretty wide range with these filters. They can be pretty basic, but probably not bass head at my scale, or they can be with just slightly accented low frequencies, and in this tuning is just a bit of boosted lows. They have nice depths, maybe not the maximum, but pretty nice, and they are balancing well between the dry and punchy bass and weighty bass with good body. So they are somewhere in between. They give a nice kick, but at the same time it's not super dry or super fast, so like more or way balanced. They are pretty good also with acoustic instruments, representing small nuances nicely. Maybe not superbly sharp in terms of rendering textures, but pretty enjoyable way of low frequencies representation. And actually this faceplate filters changes low frequencies most of all. With the closed back tuning, bass became a bit tighter and a bit more focused, giving you a bit of additional resolution and dynamics. But with closed backs you'll get a bit bigger stage. But anyway. And as an example for the low frequencies, Pitbull Terrier by Antwoord, and that's the music that suits nicely to such earphones and to such tuning. Nice punchy low frequencies and at the same time pretty pleasant and present upper mids that build that contrast that is pleasant for electronic music. Mids are a bit on the softer side of things. Resolution is normal, but they're not trying to go into the micro contrast, not trying to be super sharp or super detailed, so just normal resolution and a bit of added weight, especially noticeable on the lower mids. On the upper mids a bit less, because upper mids is also boosted here to give a bit of aggression for guitars, to give a bit of presence for female vocals and so on. They are emotional, they have good dynamics, so it's a model for those who prefer warmer and a bit emotional sound signature. Stage is slightly above average both in width and in depth with the closed back filters. With open back it's a bit bigger and a bit more diffuse. They are not super critical for the quality of records, but of course something super poorly recorded won't be the best option for them. And as an example for the mid frequencies, I've got Metallica 1. Intro is really nice, sounding pleasant, with especially all that gunshots and explosions at the beginning, and that helicopter flying by is also sounding pretty realistic. And on the main part they have a bit of added weight. It's probably not the super best choice for the distorted guitars, but at the same time, thanks to the boosted upper mids, distorted guitars sounding pretty clean and crisp. And also I like how they represent vocal here. And treble, actually it's pretty comfortable. It's definitely not the model for super extended treble, but luckily IMR have a lot of models with extended treble, so it's the model for those who like polite treble representation. It's typical dynamic driver treble with okay resolution, but a bit slower attacks and decays, meaning a bit of additional weight in the treble area, and playing nice basic overtones and basic treble percussions and other stuff like that. But of course no extended layering, no super rich overtone saturation, and they are also pretty comfortable. Not super comfortable when treble is absolutely absent. Here treble is present, but there is no focus in the treble area here, meaning that for treble sensitive people it could be a nice choice. And of course you can vary it also in a pretty noticeable area. And as an example for treble, it's Rush, red lenses. As usual, Rush has good percussions, so we'll miss Neil Peart. Anyway, nice percussions, but not moved to the first stage, not highlighted. Usually I prefer a bit sharper treble representation for Rush, but this model is for those who like more comfortable treble. In terms of pairing, they are pretty universal, just avoid warm sources because it can be too warm here. But at the same time, in terms of sensitivity, they are not super sensitive, nor needing tons of power, so somewhere in between. And speaking about the comparisons, actually I don't know what models to compare with, because all dynamic drivers in this price tier that I know, NF Audio NM2 for example, and Moondrop KXXS, they are on the warmer side. Actually, KB Ear Believe, closer in terms of price, they use Beryllium dynamic driver, but Believe is more massive on the mids and sounding a bit fuller on the low frequencies, but at the same time having a bit less depth than this model and having a bit sharper treble. Actually, it's not sharp per se, but sharper than here, but here I like extension a bit more, so actually the only model I can recall. Not much sense in comparing them with different hybrids like FIO FH3 for example, and many other stuff, because balanced armatures will have more focus on the micro contrast, sound a bit less weighty and so on, so just a different tuning. And recently released Campfire Audio Honeydew, they are more bass heads, they have more focus on the deeper bass, they have more focus on bass at all, so they have bigger bass and a bit less resolving mids than here, but also a bit more boosted treble comparing with this model, so they are more V-shaped. And EDP Plus, for example, they offering different representation because mids and treble are rendered with planar driver, meaning a bit faster manner of representation and different overall perception. So, to summarize everything, IMR created dynamic drivers for those who like a bit warmer and pretty comfortable sound. And other models are waiting in their reviews in the QE2. So thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and have a nice day.